Wow, Neil Armstrong. Hey, wait a minute. You're supposed to be on the moon. I just saw it on TV.
Oh, there's a tape delay, and with all solar winds.
Productions.
Nobody that I know of in my field uses the so-called scientific method. In our field, it's by the seat of your pants. It's leaps of logic. It's guesswork.
You don't see the curvature of the earth. That stuff is what?
GLOBEBUSTERS taking up bye moon man and rover. NASA's so mediocre. Sorry, but your ball is dead. But your ball is GLOBEBUSTERs taking up. Gotta ride this roller coaster, but the truth is getting closer. Sorry, but your ball is dead. But your ball is. Get the shovel for the slice of a piecing up the puzzle. Need to bust your bubble. Evil gonna crumble, yeah. Sit down, be humble. Got the ball, you better fumble. You get mad cause I just right about your uncle.
And then they call me the liar. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable the pathetic techniques that they have to use to prove their heliocentric model.
Props at the president, Jan got the evidence. Eros laying desert wisdoms, that shark is evident. That the earth electric and its resonant. Your residence is heavens, and I hope you settle in like some sediment. If we so wrong, why they lying to discredit it? That's not too intelligent. That's a guy not in court, but we ain't really in the settlement. It's time to awaken from the pseudoscience sedatives.
GLOBEBUSTERs taking over. Bye moon man and rover. That's just so mediocre. Sorry, but your ball is dead. But your ball is GLOBEBUSTERs taking over. Gotta ride this roller coaster, but the truth is getting closer. Sorry, but your ball is dead. But your ball is.
Inner World Productions.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of GLOBEBUSTERS Tech. I'm your host, Zach. Good times for all. And today we're going to ask the question, how flat is it? Now, this has been a point of contention for me for many years now. I have been in a camp almost kind of sitting by myself. Not really. I mean, there's other people who, kind of see it the way I do. But I've always said that it doesn't have to be perfectly flat. According to the way physics works, the way I see it, matter lies 90 degrees perpendicular to the electric field. That's just how it works. Everything does. Everything contorts to electric field lines. And we live in a giant electric field. So I've always said, now is it curving at 8 inches per mile squared? No. Am I saying that it's a globe at all? No. But what I'd like to put out there into people's minds is the idea that maybe there is some kind of a shape to it, maybe, and that might help us understand the sky above a little more and how we're seeing it or how it's done, if that's even possible. But I see a lot of people ruling out that possibility that, hey, maybe there is, like a little bell shape to it or this or that. And that's what I'd like to propose in today's show. Now, we haven't really even talked about this, us on the panel. So I may be the only one on the panel who has this notion. We'll see. So before we get into that, though, we're going to say hello to everyone. We'll start off with Miss Karen B. Karen.
Hi. Good to be back.
How are you doing? Yeah, it's great to be back, isn't it?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
Great to be back with everyone here. So, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, loving the coffee talks and the scripture studies. Those are amazing.
Yes.
If you guys have never gone and watched some of the scripture studies, it's the Bible in its, in my opinion, purest form. They go back and read it through, and break down the Hebrew and stuff like that. They really get into the true story of what the actual writing says, and it doesn't just change it a little bit, but it's so nice to have it interpreted for you. Like, reading the Bible is like reading Old English almost. It's a different way to write, and it's not how we speak. So when you're reading it, you don't always just comprehend what they're saying or getting the gist of it. And yeah, Karen and Jack doing an amazing job. And you actually get to, learn about the stories of the Bible and what they say and the people in them and the turmoil and strife and all that kind of stuff they go through. It's just an awesome
The
show.
Bible itself is really hard to chew on, but they do a really good job of kind of
Yeah.
making it a lot easier to digest. I like how a while back they were pointing out how all of the and so begat so and so begat so and so. All of those names in there have meanings, and they're just kind of breaking it down and telling about how it all tells a story. It's a lot easier and more interesting to understand when you know the meanings behind the names.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So if you're interested in something like that, especially if you've never gotten into the Bible and you're looking to get into it, this is a great place to go to. Yeah.
I've been impressed every
I enjoy
time.
it. Yeah, I really enjoy it. And next up,
Thank
oh,
you.
absolutely. Next up, we have Mr. Kyle Adams. Kyle, how was your break there, sir?
It's been fun. It's one thing after another. Keeping very busy over here. One of the big projects I'm doing right now, it's January, so I'm working on the Flat Earth Report of the year, where I do a big reporting on all of the major channels and just show how much growth there's been in this in the past year with the major flat Earth channels out there. And because that's a big question, is it still growing? How bad is the censorship lately? And it's always very impressive to see how things go. Especially, I like comparing platforms. This is how YouTube's doing. This is how Facebook is doing, and which one is seeing the most growth.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. All right. And last but definitely not least, we have Cammy Nodell. Cammy, how are you doing?
How am I doing? I am glad to be back. I am the reason we've missed a lot of these shows. I've had a rough past month and just getting back on my feet again. And it feels good to start to feel better. I am still on meds and that make me a little bit dizzy and out there, but definitely getting better. Glad to be here. I'm going to address a couple of things before we go further because you put a lot out there to ponder. When you said you don't know how anybody else in here felt about it being perfectly flat or not flat, what was the name of one of the first maps where it looked like a toroid in the middle of it? The Orlando Ferguson map? Was it?
map.
Yeah.
Ferguson, yeah.
That was one of the first maps I looked at, and it was intriguing on it that he vaulted in there. Just as a reference on things to talk to, I am familiar with, like, I go into just living here with Zach and living here with, Bob all the years and modeling things, the 90 degrees perpendicular. We have physically bent water doing experiments out there, and I think Zach is going to show you. I'm open to it where it's always been fascinating to me. I don't think it's perfectly flat everywhere straight across because I've always had a fascination with the gravitational anomalies, like those spots where it seems to tilt and measure differently. Also the areas like the Bermuda Triangle and that where you seem to have some anomalies that if you put in what we're talking about in the field and anomalies with it, it would explain it perfectly. What's happening where their compasses don't work in that. I look at those things because when you look at the complexity of our magnetic map, you'll see that it's quadrupole in the center. It's like very equalized and stable, but there's with any type of field like that, you're going to have anomalies in areas of it. So you'll say the ocean in this area is 300 feet lower than the ocean in another area. I definitely think that we have elevation even built into the things and some angles. I don't rule out something towards the Orlando Bloom map at all. I don't think, I could.
Ferguson, Orlando Bloom.
Orlando Bloom, that's terrible. That's the dizzy, that's the medication topping. But I did mean the Ferguson. But I lean more towards, again, just looking at the map and the anomalies. But again, this is all a learning thing. What I don't think it is I don't think it's a flying ball flying through space and doing any of those things. So that was my take on that. My other quick take is on the scripture show that Karen does. I grew up Catholic and even like taught CCD and that at a very before I became a completely lapsed Catholic about, over 40 years ago. So completely lapsed. And I can say that looking at the scriptures and that and looking at through concordance, they change out a lot of the words on the King James, and the words they choose would not be my personal choice on it. You almost like when they give you the root word and give you all different possibilities of it, you can almost rework it, but it's a learning thing for me because really, you're right when you say beget this and beget that. Each personal name, when you break down each personal name, it has a name like of sadness. And again, looking at it that way and breaking down the concordance and the meanings, I probably learned more from that show than just about anything on there. And the Bible was nothing at all what I thought it would be growing up Catholic. I mean, not even close. So I do want to say is different religions go in and do it. And again, Catholics are not known for reading the Bible. They're known for you go to church and see whatever the priest says, but it's like, really, that's your take on it? Because I'm looking at the words and I wouldn't have thought that at all. So
don't think for yourself. Let us do your thinking for you, right?
It is called an anti-religious scripture show, meaning that if you have like a deep gospel type of thing, it's not going to be a show for you if you're already set on what every meaning is. It's more learning and again breaking down the words and definitions.
How to think for yourself.
With how to think for yourself without any no religious context on it, as far as they don't say put that spin on it. So I think that's really, again, just looking at the words themselves, not telling you what you have to think about it. So just shout out to that. And I'll shut up now. And welcome back, everybody.
Yes, welcome back. I had a pretty nice holiday off. It was weird not doing so many shows because I think there was like a week there that I didn't do any shows at all. And I haven't done that in years, I think. Because, like I'll do one where it's, we'd take off a break with GLOBEBUSTERS, but I'd be going with Ironworks. And then we'd take off a break with Ironworks, but I'd be going with GLOBEBUSTERS. So I never really had like a whole week off where I didn't know what to do with myself. It felt so weird not talking live. It was just, I was kind of out of sorts. But I did get some stuff done. I got all 7 of the first books, children's books, put into one hardback now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, 194 pages, 196 pages, something like that. So if you were maybe interested in getting them, you can get all 7 of them together. This is the Nature Volume 1. Next, I'm working on machines. I'm on trucks right now. I'm having some fun. But you'll save about $20 if you buy the big one instead of all the smaller ones individual. And it doesn't look bad. It turned out all right, I think. The printing that they used, I mean, it looks pretty good. Yeah, it turned out all right. Lots of
flip through some more pages, Zach, because it's just showing beautiful, colorful.
It's
reading
a nice
to
size.
children.
It's bigger than the paperbacks. The paperbacks I think are like 7.5 by 9 or something like that. These are 11 by 8.5, something like that. Somewhere right around there.
So Kyle, we need to get one out to you and Jaron and Whitson. That we need to get some out to all of these people with children, because I think everybody can agree on they're beautiful children's books. Just looking at the curiosity through a child's eyes.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, NDB. Yeah, it's it's needed right now. If you guys, I know, if you don't have children or you don't really get into the book scene at all, there are a lot of children's books that are, oh, I don't even really want to get into it, but I wouldn't allow my worst enemy's child to read these books. Okay, they're, in my opinion, not for children whatsoever. Parents are having a hard time finding, newer children's books. I mean, there's always the classics, but newer children's books, about stuff that's going on today more so, with our technology and everything changing. It's really hard to get good, clean children's books now. So yeah, we need more people out there doing it. We really do. So yeah, there's some available. You can get them at Amazon.com. I think the link is down in the description. All right, so let's get into it. How flat is it? Now,
so this is kind of exploring the whole concave thing?
No, just kind of showing that our limitations on measurements and how we can't use the sky as a measuring tool to tell us what's beneath our feet. So optically, we can measure pretty well optically. Now, can we measure it? Yeah, could we measure, 20 inches in 10 miles? I don't think so. If it curved only 20 inches over 10 miles instead of the 66 feet like they claim it does, but just 20 inches, I don't think we can measure that optically. But there are ways to do it. We haven't done it yet. There was a gentleman way back in the day named Brian Mullins who had a really good idea, I thought, an engineer who spent a lot of time thinking on this. I don't even think his playlist, Balls Out Physics, I know I've seen some playlists up, but they didn't have all of his videos on there. But his channel name was called Balls Out Physics back in the day. He was an engineer, and someone turned him into the engineering board, and he had to quit making videos on YouTube. It was a shame.
Yeah. A lot of his videos are still up there, but you got to look for them.
Yeah. Now this, do you know whereabouts you started it, Karen? Because I don't think you covered the whole video on your show.
I don't remember.
Okay, we're going to start it in here somewhere. And this is something that Effie Core did back in the day. Dr. Zach, Steve Falconer. I think you were even in on it, weren't you?
Steve Falconer, no. He's not. No, that's not.
No.
Steve Torrance.
Torrance, sorry. Yeah, excuse me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And put together this amazing video that just kind of showed how hard it is to, look at the sun from many points of view, all at the same time and make sense of it. Like, what is it? Is it right there? And if it's right there for me, is it in that spot for everybody else? Is everybody else seeing the same thing? And they came to the
sun glitter says a lot. Sun glitter is the trail of light that you see in the water that goes from you across a lake or any kind of large body of water, and it goes directly to the sun. But if two people are standing on the shoreline, they each see it coming directly to them, but they don't see it going to the other person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we'll start this. Let's see. Yeah, I apologize. I was thinking about this video this morning because Karen had showed it on her show Monday morning, and it got out of my mind until 5 minutes before the show started, and I asked Karen if she had it. So I haven't even had a chance to go through and look. I was going to try and mark the spot, but we'll see. Maybe
Yeah, I
about
started it
right.
right around there, right before they start talking about the crepuscular rays and stuff.
Okay, so yeah, we'll just jump in, and we might skip through it a little bit, but yeah, this is a great video, folks. Actually, here, I'll drop it in chat for everybody. There you go. There. Let me drop it over on Rockfin. Good evening, Annie D. Hanging out over on Rockfin. All right. So this is Flat Earth, absolute must see. Yeah, this was great. Just totally, this is one of those that blow your mind, like the Dan Dimension film with the plasmas and all that stuff. This is one of those that once you see it, it'll stick with you. It's yeah, really well done. Oh.
Sides of the drift pattern is also equal and opposite on both sides of the equator, which means that this small 39.8 mile diameter sun is moving across the sky at various observed speeds north and south of the equator.
Now, he said 39-mile sun. That's what they got. That's the measurement they got when they measured it.
After 2 years of research and modeling, we were stuck and couldn't make it work to model the sun or any object accurately.
Or any object. Just luminary.
We started from scratch again. After looking at photos of crepuscular rays of the sun, which all flat earthers have seen 1 million times, we came to a revelation many, if not all, flatheads have overlooked. When you look at crepuscular rays piercing through clouds over a lake or plain, for example, the angles of the rays end up at the actual light source, which is just above the clouds in most cases. But we know the sun is not right above the clouds. We
Everyone
started
don't believe
wondering
planes could
what
fly
sun
into it or
would see
anything like that.
back from the other side, and if he or she would see the same thing.
These animations.
Imagine a scenario where you see these rays over a lake. Those rays are lighting up a spot on the water.
I'm gonna
now put another observer right across the lake looking back at you. Can he see those rays in that lit up spot on the water like in this animation? Let's take that one step further and give the primary observer seeing the rays a long pole with a mirror attached at the end. If he were to reflect that ray hitting the water to the observer on the other side, would he then see a reflection of the sun in that mirror? Keep in mind the distance apart here is only 40 kilometers, and where the sun should be for the observer on the other side. To make these light angles in 3D software, you will need, like we used here, a local light source. But in reality, when you move to the other side of the lake and turn around to look back, you will have the sun at your back. Therefore, making it impossible to see the rays in the first scenario or the reflection of the sun in the mirror. We have therefore come to the logical conclusion that those rays are personal for any observer, as someone looking back cannot see the same thing because of his position towards the sun. Now, if those rays are personal and cannot be seen by anyone else but the observer himself, that indicates that the sun is a personal or local objective projection. This can be verified by anyone by doing the opposite side crepuscular rays experiment, like in this animation, and see that someone looking back at someone seeing those rays cannot and will not see the same thing. A rainbow acts the same way as the sun, being that you can only see it at a specific angle, and you cannot walk around a rainbow as it will always move away from you. And you cannot see the opposite side of a rainbow. A rainbow is a source projection, and its source is the sun. Therefore, if the sun is also a source projection of an unknown source, we can start modeling the path of the sun for each observer on Earth. We did this by taking just one longitude, that being the 0 UTC meridian on Earth.
This
And
had to
inputted
take
the
so
data from
long.
observations for azimuth and declination of the sun, and traced the sun object for that location for a year for each 10th latitude north and south of the equator, and just let the data run its course for a year.
10th latitude.
But the model became so heavy with data and tiny hair-thin tracer lines that even with a super machine, we couldn't render the result. After some trial and error, we finally managed to get a clear view on the end result. And even with our sun being an equal distance to the observer, the shape and layout ended up in a torus.
Do you think that could possibly be like the shape of the dome right there?
Kind of like a upturned dish. Or
Yeah,
downward dish.
with a little hole in the middle.
That's interesting.
Oh, we need more data. We still need more
I think
data.
that's more plausible than like a actual like half dome looking half
Yeah,
of a
like
sphere.
perfect. Yeah.
That's kind of something I've been
I agree
thinking.
100% of that one. Yeah.
I've been thinking a lot about how too many people just think of like this perfectly smooth surface on the underside of the dome. And I'm like thinking about how, like, what if there were like waves in it, and that could totally like
Change
obscure
the
things.
angle of the sun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on where you're. Yeah. Yeah, that's just gorgeous though. So that's what the sun does over a year right there. When you map it from every 10th of a degree on the longitude latitude lines. That is just beautiful.
And even with our sun being an equal distance to the observer, the shape and layout ended up in a torus field around the Earth.
See, something like that. Yeah. That's kind of what I'm thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
We still have to figure out how to do proper 3D vectoring to get all the observed speeds and changes in the motion of the sun, creating a more true shape. But it became very clear to us that based on Ken Wheeler's research into magnetic holography, that the sun we see is projected into the electromagnetic field in the sky. The objective sun follows the magnetic field lines that are unique for each location on Earth.
Yeah, that blew my mind.
So the real sun is a source coming from outside of the so-called firmament, which probably uses light polarization that is projected into the magnetic field and rendered through the atmosphere. It is no coincidence that all sun arcs combined create this torus-like field, and this is version 1.0. As soon as we find out how to use equal distance 3D vectoring and a formula on the angles in the data sheets from observations, we can then get a true shape in second-by-second motion in the field lines. This torus field is by no means a stationary field, as the sun moves north and south during the year. We animated this in what we call the cosmic breath of flat Earth, and this shows that by simply increasing the current in the field from the North Pole, you then push the field south, and by lowering the current, it flows back north again. It can also be pushed back and forth by an outside magnetic field from beyond the Antarctic, 90 degrees south latitude.
It's like a heart beating.
The southern magnetic anomaly is also a moving anomaly, and who knows what more lies beyond the southern latitudes, all of which have influence on the field. From a creation standpoint, it must have a function as well. If we animate all sun positions over a year, the animation gives the impression of a wave going around the field like an outside source pushing and pulling on the field and projecting its image, that being the sun or moon, in it. We do not know yet what, where, and how this outside source is mechanically working, so to speak, but from an engineer's perspective, everything that works like a machine or clock must have a basic principle and laws of physics to discover its nature. We just have to figure out where to go from here and what experiments can be derived to either build on this or modify the basic concept. With this concept, we can boldly say we have created a working flat Earth model that can be held up to scrutiny, evaluation, testing, and experimenting to either verify or debunk certain aspects of this model. It is therefore with great honor and humility that we present this first and only working flat Earth model with an actual base in geometry, science, and observations. In the coming weeks, we will be releasing ground views of this model to show that current sun angles are dead on correct.
It's just music, I think. For
Yeah.
most of the part, you could just turn the music down and let it play.
Yeah.
It's cool to look at.
Yeah, it's a really cool background to have. So what'd you guys think? This was one that got me thinking a lot back in the day. And
I like this
Oh
one
yeah,
a lot
it was
because
one of my
of
favorites.
I like it because he mentioned the sun being on the outside of the firmament, not under the firmament, and that's kind of how I understand the firmament being much closer to the Earth than the sun is, and so I that part really intrigues me. Anytime someone says something like that, I'm like, okay, tell me more. I'm interested.
yeah.
And
That
I've got
one
a
right
different
there.
one. Oops, go ahead, Karen.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, and I have done some modeling where, and a lot of this is even like, again, rereading the words. If you look at what the firmament is, it's described as an expanse. It's described as a vault and an expanse. It's not described as a ceiling. They actually, again, looking at the literal, the most literal word to it is an expanse. And so if you actually, and you have your different heavens, if you looked at that toroid that and brought it both directions or that and made the that would actually be too simple of a one because looking at our magnetic configuration, but actually having a firmament that had the sun and moon and wandering stars in it that projected into our sky, which would be our first heaven. But I see the firmament as more of a container in a way than or an expanse itself, not just a ceiling, a full layer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's like, I forget when this video was even put together.
It's been a while.
7
A lot of our,
years ago.
yeah, a
it's
lot
been
of
a
our
while.
best work was quite a again, when you get into these and that it takes so much more data and stuff going further. One of the things we needed is to find out about sun movement in Antarctica and in the south, and that's additive information.
I took that picture right there. I remember that day. Sorry about that.
For people going like back 7 years, 5 years, and working on modeling in that, you can go to my channel, find a video, even the rocks cry out, and several other the grow with kaleidoscope skies and such, that you'll see different ways to model it. If you add in the full rotation, it works quite nicely. Final experiment never scared me. It was information I wanted. We've measured the ground, but that's just my opinion on it. It didn't trigger. I was mostly the only thing that upset me about that experiment was the community's toxic reaction to it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll move on from here. This is good, Zach. I'll let you keep going.
Well, no, go ahead. I'll just play it in the background. I'll explain what it is real quick. That's still water with a curve in it. I bent the electric field lines and let the water just sit there, and you can see from the way the dots are right here,
Yeah, the
You'll see
reflection's distorted.
it's distorted. Once I'm going to stop it from happening, I'm going to make the electric field equal everywhere so it lays nice and flat here in a second, and you'll see all the dots will go back to normal. But yeah, once I did this, and this was 6 years ago, so like right around 2018-ish. Well, does it have a date? March 6, 2018. Yeah. Almost 7 years ago now. So yeah, once I did this, it was like, okay, well, is the Earth really have to be perfectly flat? You know, and ever since then, I've been in the boat of saying, it's not a ball, 24,901 miles. I know that. We've disproven that. But is it perfectly flat? I don't know. It could be. But as far as we can measure optically, yes, it appears to be flat. I don't see any curve with optics. But
And we
optics
certainly don't
aren't.
have a parabolic drop off the way that's predicted in the globe. I mean, that for sure we do not
Yeah.
have.
Yeah. So as far as the idea that it has to be flat, well, the way electricity works and the way matter reacts with electricity and all that stuff, it doesn't have to be perfectly flat. Now,
Mountains still exist.
yeah, can I get water to stick to a ball like this? I can't, not with the toys I have. And they've tried and tried and tried to create our ionosphere, right? The thing that we have that keeps us here stuck to the earth. They can't recreate one of those in a lab either. So, is it a sphere? I don't know. This is that map Cammy was talking about in the beginning, the Orlando Ferguson map.
This is again the Orlando Ferguson. This is interesting to me just because if you look at it and if you made an enclosed firmament the shape of a toroid and made that your ionosphere, Zach, you would kind of see that this would be the landmass if it was a simple toroid. I'm not agreeing with looking at our sky motions and different things like that. I'm not thinking it would be the way we see the sky, just a simple toroid, but this would be like the most simplified perfection of it.
So that's what, when people are thinking about this and, trying to map things out and trying to get the ground to work with the sky in any model. Like I said, we cannot triangulate the sun. Nobody can. Doesn't matter how you're doing it. Think of weird stuff like this, because this, as implausible as it seems, is a possibility. That's how nature works, and it has limits and boundaries. And when it comes to the electric field, what is, creating the downward vector here on Earth, that vector will be shaped like the field lines. So if the field lines have a bend and a curve to them, then the ground will also have a bend and a curve to it, because it's always 90 degrees perpendicular. So like a T. So the field line's going to come down, and if the matter was, jumbled up like this, and all of a sudden an electric field is introduced, it's going to go boom, and it's going to flatten out with it. That's just how matter works when it's introduced into an electric field. So if you are thinking about maps and this and that or possibilities, don't rule out that the ground may not be a perfectly flat plane. As far as our optics can tell, yeah, it seems like it to me, but how good are our optics? Now, this is just with our eyes. So, cameras are definitely going to be better, but they also have limits. They also have like the human eye is 0.02 degrees, your angular resolution limit. We've talked about that before. We can go over that maybe next week. we'll go back over, perspective and stuff like that. But you have right here, the B line is 5,280 feet. We're going to take our A angle, 0.02 degrees, calculated it. And so for B, or A, I mean, 1.84 feet. So that's a 1 mile. You're going to lose about 1.8 feet due to the angular resolution limit of the human eye. Now, if you bump that up to 10 miles, it then becomes 18 feet. Not even close to what the globe model is, but remember, this is under perfect conditions. No particulates, no moisture in the air, no nothing like that. It is never like that over 10 miles. So the angle will only get bigger. Now, this is the amount that'll be, remember, angular resolution limit. So when you're looking out for a little 0.02 degrees along your horizon, all that information is going to get jumbled together. And you can no longer differentiate one light source from another. So it just kind of blurs together in this line along our horizon. It's called Fraunhofer diffraction. And then if you go to 100 miles, right? 184 feet that you can't differentiate the top from the bottom. So what this is saying is when you're looking out over a long distance and say over 100 miles, there's 50 feet of curvature only. Barely any, wouldn't be noticeable at all to your human eye. You couldn't even see it 50 feet over 100 miles because of that diffraction limit is 184 feet. And that's just the limit of your eyes. So what I'm saying is that it could have some shape to it that optically you would not be able to measure. It doesn't matter how big your camera got, this or that. This is a fundamental limitation of physics with a circular aperture. This always happens without a doubt, rain or shine, perfectly clear day. Like I said, this is the limit. So this is with perfect atmosphere, just nitrogen, oxygen in the atmosphere. No dust, no, water molecules, nothing like that. No disturbance of the wind blowing by or anything. That all affects vision when you're trying to see things real far away. So yeah, could there be a little bit of a curve to it? Possibly. I can't rule it out. There's only one way I think we could rule it out, and it would have to be done multiple places. I would love it if we could build a device that you could then transport and move all over the place. And this guy right here, his channel's not even on YouTube anymore. I had to go find this. iRabbyT. But yeah, this was his idea. He kind of talks, this is Brian here, and he kind of talks about what needed to be done to measure this accurately. Because this is where I started looking into optics was because of Brian, like the limitations of our optics. Because he said, they're just not perfect. So, and if it is like, over 2 miles, if it's supposed to, there's like a 4-inch drop, even a really good camera at 2 miles isn't going to be able to differentiate 4 inches. That's going to be real hard for it to do.
I'm just thinking about like a 2x4 or something like that. It looks pretty flat, but sometimes there can be just a tiny bit of curve to that thing. But by any kind of normal person would just say, yeah, that's flat. They're not going to say that's that concave or anything like that.
Yeah, and he said this was, going to cost upwards to $200,000, I believe, to get, real people out there, the engineers doing the measurements. And because if you want to make something perfectly straight, it's not that easy to do. It really isn't. We use the ground as our, And if it's level right here and it's level over there, okay, that's flat. But to put things together, you know, and keep that thing a perfectly seamless straight line without going off just a little bit up or down, it's not easy to do, like making a fence and have it be perfectly straight all the way across for miles is difficult. So we're just going to watch a little bit of this, and he's going to explain what he's talking about.
We set posts over a 2-mile stretch of land. What I've got here are my posts, okay? 10 feet on center. Here's your first post, second post at 10 feet, third post at 20 feet, all the way down to 2 miles, 2 miles away. Here's your last post at 10,560 feet, or 2 miles, and your second to last post at 10,550 feet, okay? Got my break line in here to show that the distance between these two posts is 10,530 feet. You see what I've drawn here, okay? Now the idea is everything is based off the first two posts, okay? What we do, we set the posts in a straight line. Very, very easy to do. Contractors can definitely do this. And then between the very first two posts, we construct a beam between the two and level that beam, okay? We level this beam, okay? Make it level. This is typically how beams are constructed. You always level them out unless there's a roof slope or something. But for a floor beam or something, you would always level it. Anyway, so this point right here is this point on the Earth if we live on a convex sphere, okay?
That's the only
Meaning,
place they're going to
when
level
this
it
beam
like
is
that.
leveled, there is an imaginary line perpendicular to the center of gravity of the Earth, extending this to the center of the Earth. And then we do the same thing all the way to the end. We level each one of these beams all the way for 2 miles, okay? So every time you level one of these beams, it should be extending, it should be perpendicular to a line extending to the center of the gravity of the Earth. So over 2 miles, those beams will actually follow the curve. They have to. If a level works, the only way it can really work is on a sphere is if it works with the center of gravity. Okay? Then,
Okay, so I misspoke there. This is the line, the force line. So there's the curve line, the top one that he started with. So this is going to always, each one will be leveled with the level. So like he said, it's going to go with the curve of the Earth. Now he's going to talk about the forced line right here. And this is where the money and stuff like that comes in.
what we do is we use a rectilineator type device below it to force the line. This very first beam we construct right here is perfectly parallel, or as close as we can get to perfectly parallel to this beam. It's leveled too. We level that beam, okay? But then for all of the rest of the beams on the forced line, as I'm calling it, we use a connection here. It forces this beam, it forces a right angle connection to the first beam, okay? So say this is our first beam that's leveled, okay? It's leveled out. The next beam that comes in, we use precision machine work, or like a CNC machine or something similar, to create a connection that forces a right angle connection to that first beam, okay? So now this second beam is not actually level. You wouldn't be able to tell from the naked eye, and if you put a level on it, it would probably still show that it's level because our levels are not that accurate, but it will stay in line with this beam. And we do that all the way down to the end. Now, we can just use a rectilineator type device. We don't have to build these beams. We don't need 1,057 of these beams on the bottom because they're going to be expensive to make a right angle connection like this. You see, I've got 90 degrees at all four corners. We can just leapfrog it and just mark the columns or the posts as we go until we get the line. Now, if the Earth is a sphere with a circumference of 25,000 miles, then over 2 miles, we should see from this point to this point a drop of roughly 32 inches. You can draw this in AutoCAD and prove it. This is what it has to be if the circumference of our world is 32 inches.
So what he's saying is the bottom line would actually start going up the post, because the top one and the post, if it is a ball, right, is what he's saying, then this post is going to be, you know, tilted a little bit. The end of this one up here is going to be 32 inches lower than this one right here at the start. But this one is just going to keep running straight. So eventually it would come up and run into that, depending on how far away you have these. So this bottom one would actually look like it's going up the post 32 inches at the end. Does that make sense to everybody? You see what he's doing there, Kyle?
It's kind of thick, so I'm having a hard time following entirely.
Okay, the top one is going to be lined up level with the curve of the Earth. You used a level, right?
Mhm.
So as you're going and you keep using the level, it's going to be, this end will be down 32 inches.
Level
but
curve
it's
doesn't
still
quite
gonna
work for me, but yeah.
Yeah, no, well, the top one is for the globe. This is like, if it's a globe, then, you know, this is straight. This is parallel with the globe. Now this one, he's not going to level out all of these over here with a level. He's not going to use a bubble level. That's what he was talking about, all the connectors. So this is just going to be a straight line. Whether it's a globe or flat or whatever, this is just going to be a perfectly straight line going out. And this top one is going to follow the globe because they used the level each time. So does that make sense now how they would kind of run into each other at the end? Yeah.
Or 25,000 miles. Okay? So we go all the way down to the end. And this last post, we should have 32 inches between these two lines. Okay?
Different standards of measuring.
64 to give ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, so right here, 64 inches in between these two at the beginning, and he said they would only be 32 inches at the end. That's how close they would come together. So they wouldn't quite touch yet, but if you start them 64 inches apart, by the time you get down here, if this line is just straight and this one goes with the curve of the Earth, they'll only be 32 inches apart down here. I thought it was genius when I heard this. I was like, well, that makes sense. Let's do that. Then he gets into the caveat about the price, which is, you know, getting something that's going to be perfect like this. Perfect is hard, is expensive, you know. You look at some of the houses and this and that are built, ain't nothing perfect. Ain't nothing perfect. I've worked with these construction guys and I've seen how they do highways. You pick it, big, giant, tall buildings. There's all kinds of things that are off by a 16th of an inch or, you know, a 32nd of an inch. The board doesn't quite get there and you just kind of hit the nail extra hard and it'll stay. You know, that happens all the time. Perfect is really hard and really expensive to do. So that's where he gets into, he's going to get into the price here in a second.
Ample space. And at the end, there should be 32 inches from, roughly. It's not going to be exact. You know, there'll be some error, but there's enough. There's so much drop that is that any small errors and plumbness of these columns and everything shouldn't affect it too much. This could be 30 inches, whatever. Now, in the rectilineator experiment, they showed that the Earth curved up roughly 30 inches. That the concave sphere, it has the same circumference as the convex sphere. Now, that experiment was done 118 years ago, and nobody's done anything else like this since then. In fact, I find it funny that we don't have anything like this in the world. We have nothing that shows our curvature. Imagine how cool it would be to build something like this and leave it in place. Oklahoma, Nebraska, you guys want some tourism? Build this. Okay. Imagine driving in a dark sky area at night, and maybe they put some lights that run down the line on this thing, and drive next to it, put a path next to it, or ride a bike or something. And as you're traveling, you can watch the curvature happen right before your eyes. You can watch these two lines converge. They will both appear to be lines to you, but one of them's actually a line and the other one's curving. Why don't we have this? Disney, I'm looking at you. Now you might argue, it's just, nobody's going to spend money on that. It's just a waste of money to do something like that. We have pictures from space that show it's a ball. There's no point. Well, those pictures from space cannot calculate this curvature. They cannot prove the curvature. And on top of that, a few years ago, the United States federal government spent $800,000 on studying the benefits of snail sex. Seriously. Now, I'm all for studying our world, but I'm more interested as a tax-paying citizen in the curvature of my world than I am in snail sex. Snails, I ride my bike a lot. I'm out in the woods a lot. I see snails every now and then. They look like they're doing okay. I don't think we need to study their sexual habits. Well, we can study their sexual habits after we are proven that we live on this ball. I want to see this. I want this to happen so that I can rest easier at night and know that I'm not being lied to. So, let's force the line.
2 miles, big pine sailing. That would be the necessary length to get to 32 inches.
I ran some rough numbers, and if we assume that all these members are 10 feet long, forgetting the rectilinear, just the top line and the posts, let's assume they're all 10 feet long and that they're all structural steel and they weigh 10 pounds per foot. Now, since this is outdoors, we're going to want to hot dip galvanize all of these shapes. Hot dip galvanized structural steel runs about 3,000 Fed notes per ton, a ton being 2,000 pounds. So, adding all that up, we need 1,056 plus 1 posts, so 1,057 posts and 1,056 beams. You get around $317,000. That's a lot less than what we spent on snail sex.
Yeah.
And we could do this cheaper too if we put some serious engineering work into it. They don't need the structural steel members weighing 10 pounds per foot. That's very conservative. We could make it better than that, but I'm just throwing some numbers out there. And then we also have to build this rectilinear type device, which you could throw another $100,000 in there for that thing because it's going to take some very precision machining to build it. But we can do it. But who I'm really looking at is what about Disney? You guys have all that land south of Orlando. You've got Epcot Center with the Epcot ball that shows us it's a small world after all. Show us how small it is. Why don't we have this? Why don't we have this? I don't know. Let's force the line. Let's stop arguing about what we're seeing and measure it mechanically. Let's find our curvature or no curvature. To be able.
And that's my sentiment as well. I mean, if I'm going to say it's flat, I need to measure it like that. Until then, it looks flat to me. It's definitely not curving as much as they're telling us it's curving. That's apparent to me.
Mm-hmm.
But to say that it's perfectly flat everywhere and this and that, and water always finds it. No, water lays 90 degrees perpendicular to the electric field. It's just how it works. And we live in an electric field. So something like this, I think, needs to be done.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with saying it's flat like a pizza. It's flat like a penny. Yeah, it's still got grooves in it, but pennies are flat.
Yeah. But yeah, I can see where Jaron's going to, saying, "Oh, I'm not going to call myself a flat earther anymore." Well, I mean, I still consider myself a flat earther, but I don't go around saying that I know that it's flat 100%. I think it is. It appears to be, but do I know it to be flat for sure? No, I don't. Now, what I would really like to see come out of this, though, is other people, you know, just not adding it to models or this or that, but giving it some thought. Like if you're having trouble with the model, matching the sky to the ground, maybe you need to match the ground a little bit more to the sky. Like, if there was just a little bell in there right there, then all these measurements would make sense with the sun. Or then maybe there's a little bell shape to the earth. If that would straighten out the sun measurements and the sky measurements and all to be able to triangulate all these things. I don't know. But we can't just rule it out because it looks like it. If we wanted to really rule it out, how flat it is, I think something like Mr. Mullins here was suggesting years ago, 7, 8 years ago. This was like early on, wasn't it? 2016-ish?
Yeah,
Something
he
like
was.
that.
Yeah, he was very early on.
Yeah. So more like 8, 9 years ago, really. This is someone else's channel that just sharing it.
Mm-hmm.
Time is flying by so fast when it comes to just the time since then.
Yeah. So yeah, just keep your mind open to ideas. Yeah, I always get a little kink in my neck every time I hear people say, "Oh, water always finds its level." It's like, no, it doesn't. I mean,
Depends on the
as far as
conditions.
Well,
as
yeah,
far as it
actually,
looks,
it does. Water is used as a level, and it's considered the most accurate level. They've been using it for construction for
well,
a long
yeah.
time, so actually, it does. I don't know why you think it wouldn't. I mean, if you manipulate it with an electric field, then
Well,
that's
yeah, on a
different.
very small scale right here. But I'm saying if you look at the whole Earth, and if the electric field is shaped a little bit differently, instead of just straight up and down, then the water's going to take that shape.
Yeah. One of the things I'm thinking a little bit about here is tides, and about how if it's higher in one area and lower in another area, then that's not perfectly level. But it's kind of like a fountain. The fountain, like water, is gonna, if there's a underwater like geyser, okay, going off, you're gonna have a bulge on the top of that as the water's going up and out, and it's gonna be lower on the other ends. And so that's kind of one of my thoughts.
Yeah, so I don't know. Same as, yesterday, same as way before TFE. I don't know if it's perfectly flat. As far as I can see, it looks really flat. Like as far as I can see, and optically we can measure, it's flat. Like the curve that's supposed to be there, 66 feet over just 10 miles, is not there. Is not even close. Like I wouldn't even give you, 10 feet over 10 miles. I think we could optically see that. But like 10 feet over 100 miles, I think that'd be hard to measure optically. I don't think it could be done optically. But yeah, so just keep your mind open to different possibilities. It's gonna go with the physics and how things work, physically, if that makes any sense. We know there's certain things out there. We know we have a magnetic field around us. We know we have an electric field around us. We can measure all these different things going on. So we really need to know their limits. And as far as magnetically goes, I mean, that might explain the sky in itself. I don't know. I mean, Cammy's got some really interesting ideas on how it's all working up there and this and that. I can't really see them yet. Sometimes it takes me a while to get what Cammy's saying. But she's been talking a lot about, you know, the whole idea of there being circling suns, you know, around the magnetic poles in the south, how that's very possible. She's been saying this for years. So yeah, just keep an open mind. There's
Yeah.
nothing about TFE that kills flat Earth.
Not at all. I just keep thinking of like, guys, if you turn on a light in your living room for 24 hours, it's not going to change the shape of the floor. Come on. I saw the light in my living room for 24 hours. I could see it. All of a sudden, that means my living room floor is a ball.
No, I will admit it wasn't what I expected. I didn't think they were going to go down there and see that. I heard a lot of people say before, though, that, you know, they've been doing research and talking to people who've been down there, and they say that it happens.
Yeah. The thing that's kind of stood out to me for a while is like, it's not just going to be Antarctica. You're going to see that. You're going to probably see that in like the bottom of South America and probably places out in Australia. It's not going to be like an instantaneous change. And so anyone who's claiming that it was faked or anything like that, go look at these other places around the world. Okay. Look at the bottom of Africa. Where do they see the sun? You know, how long do they see the sun for? You know what I mean? Look at those other places. I'm sure you don't have to go to Antarctica to do that. You could just go to the bottom of South America.
Yeah, a lot of questions out there. Maybe one day.
Maybe
we'll
one
get them
day.
answered.
I won't do much.
If I see a light in my living room, go around in a circle on the ceiling. It definitely doesn't change the shape of the floor, though. Oh man.
No, it doesn't change the shape of the floor. As far as the sky and the circling and why, I've had like wondering about the 24/7 because again, we've had a lot of Antarctic stuff, and I've even talked with somebody in Antarctica that lived down there. I don't think far enough south that doesn't remember. He remembers daylight, but he didn't remember, you know, seeing the sun going
Yeah,
around. And
some
so
of the
again,
stations that are closer to the edge, you know, like the inner edge, they don't get 24-hour sun. You have to be beyond, what is it, 66 point something degrees south in order for that to start taking place.
But talking with people in New Zealand, in Australia, and in South America, they were all reporting southern rotation. And I early on didn't think that everybody on the southern hemisphere was a liar. I thought that the sun trails that we got out of Indonesia were quite enlightening and different sun trails than that. But in case like people are wondering in a nutshell, what I think might be going on is as simple as this. If you look at our magnetic field, we have a center quadrupole that would be a main one, but on the edges, we also showed two dipoles, one under Australia and one between South America and Africa. I don't think everywhere you went to the south. I think that around those poles are where you'd see circling them because where they sent them, Jaron and Wood, so that's what I was looking at is where they sent them was like very close to a magnetic pole where I would expect the optics of a magnetic pole. Some of the things are circling. You have magnetic circling, you have rotation and things like that going on, and mirroring, again, natural properties of magnetic fields. And so if you move the sun up a layer, you could easily have it projecting into, and it would project into each magnetic field as your personal. If you're on the edge close to the southern ones, things are going to rotate that way. But if you're in the center one this way, so again, it's more of a tri-pole, and that's simply following, like again, the declination and the Faro patterns of what we applied to and make the mapping to, and that. So just applying some physics to them, saying if we have the magnetic poles there, we're measuring them. Why don't we give them some of the optical properties that go along with them? You would see how, again, polarity and breaking over. And again, you say, why wouldn't you see two sentences very easy? If you have two magnetic poles, you're in this one, you're going to be picking up the one you're inside of, not the one over here. In other words, it's your personal sun. It's where it's projecting in for you personally. So that is in a nutshell how I think it's working. Karen, I know I sent you some video, and people that don't get it, where I showed like where you guys have seen, it's very, very, very easy to get. And I know, Karen, that's in our latest Skype. It's very easy to get when you put the domes. If you saw when I had all the domes on my desk, and again, the magnetics would do this. The optics went into all of them. It went in spinning and things. And again, you put in some mirroring in that. Again, if you move it up there, now if you give the properties, that just gives you the visuals, which are very, very, very easy to transfer. But if you add some properties to the firmament that are described in all literature, like again, making it a shiny river, or again, looking glass type of materials, so you make mirroring properties to that, all of a sudden you start adding parabolic functions again with the shape, with both, and you in nature, again, just by that you can naturally focus it. There's a child's toy out there called a miroscope, that is literally a little vault of looking glass that we played from, and from there you can the projections that it creates, because it's created by parabolic dishes, it not only projects the image, the optical image, but it's also projecting all the properties along with it, things that are needed to project it, and not only the optics, but again, the electromagnetic waves, the physical, the heat, the different things. We put an ice cube, some of the tests we did, we put an ice cube in the little toy, and the hologram, which is not directly above it, actually was colder. We put something hot in there, the hologram was hotter. You can blind yourself by the put a piece of tinfoil in the little hologram emitter, and the actual hologram of the tinfoil, you catch it in a ray of light and it will blind you. Things, if you light it up in the miroscope, they come out lit there. If you take something, you put it down in the miroscope and you shine a UV light on it, you can actually get it to glow and light up without even hitting the base object. It's quite remarkable what happens when you start putting parabolic dishes in the matter. You're like, well, crazy parabolic dishes, you're introducing too much. But when you look at the way that they describe the heavens and the layers of it and look through all the literature, I'm not introducing anything. I'm looking at properties that are there in different ancient texts, many different ancient texts, and just putting the properties of what would happen if you put these things up there in the scan. It's pretty remarkable. But I'll leave on my rant right there. That was a little thing. Cammy's hologram diatribe is true and underrated social media wise. It's true anywhere. Anybody that's sat and done it with me can get a feel for it a little bit. Putting in all of the things sounds complicated, but to me it's a lot less complicated than the fact that in the globe Earth model, again, the moon is supposedly traveling twice as fast and backwards for us to see it going the same direction as the sun, and the angle we're at, and again, all of the little pieces and things that have to change for them to do it. We have the wobble, but the North Star doesn't wobble, and again, all of these little things that don't work. That was my rant. Karen, do you have a rant? You've been very quiet, and I'll be quiet on that. But this is, again, it's these are my opinions and possibilities. I'm not a warrior, and I'm not one to put out that this is what it is, because again, I'm looking at what's possible, but I can't physically go out and do it. And I'm not the type to put out, oh, I have godlike qualities, I know all of this, and you don't. It's just, again, we have a lot to learn. Ran over.
Good rant. Do I have a rant? No, I do not have a rant.
No rant from Karen tonight. Sorry, folks.
No, but I will say that I did go out with Effie Core to Lake Balaton, and we saw the laser beams when we shouldn't have. It should have been behind a curve if the Earth was a ball the size that they say it is. We shouldn't have seen it. It should have been physically blocked from our eyesight.
When that 27 miles or something like that?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think.
that was the one where they did that in the Netherlands. But when I went, I think we went up to like 18 or something like that.
18.
We didn't go as high as 27. I can't remember how far it was, but it wasn't as far as the ones they did in the Netherlands, which was even longer.
Which was even longer. The microwave tests done by the microwave companies on the towers. Again, their towers and the length that they were running them. Again, prove it. Things I was typing in the chat to other people coming in. Rim velocity. We're forgetting a whole lot of reasons that we don't live on a spinning ball. Rim velocity was always one of my very favorites. Makes it totally absurd. There are so many so many reasons that we know that what they're selling us is a lie. But again, they've been putting this together and have had some of the top minds, again, working on solving that globe problem, which again, what they've come up with is dark matter, and we know nothing about nothing really. They say we know less than 3% on how things work. And again, all of their
Yeah.
theories contradict all of their theories. Am I surprised that we don't have all of the answers right now? No. Does
No.
it frustrate me? No, I think we've learned a lot and we have a lot more to learn. I think people just need to, again, remember GLOBEBUSTERS was is we're not on a spinning ball, and as far as on a flat earth, and that we have a lot to learn about it. It's very mysterious and beautiful. Karen did an experiment with me where we did what was the name of the experiment we did in Denver with the surveyor? I want to say Force the Line, but I don't think that was it. It was
Oh,
Force the Level or
Force the level.
force the
Force the
level.
Level.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And again, got very, very minute things. I know for a fact that we're not living on a spinning ball that curves at the rate they say. We do see too far in the anomalies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 100% comfortable with that. And the mysteries of what's and how beautiful this place is. Again, I think look to nature, see how the creator creates, and the answers are found there.
Very well said.
Yeah.
I just
Well-
keep thinking back to Flatoberfest a while back about the circle in the square and talking about how this earth is within our realm of understanding. The heavens are outside of our realm of understanding. Like there's so
Yeah.
much that we just are incapable of understanding concerning the things in the sky. I'm just, yeah.
I think
There's
it was
so much-
Jeremiah. In Jeremiah, it says it
Mhm.
that we're not gonna know
That
the heavens,
the heavens can't be measured.
and you're not gonna find the foundation. You
Yeah.
know,
It's right with the
once I,
unseen, yeah.
because after I almost went crazy trying to figure out what's going on in the sky, that's like I went on walkabout and found just Jack, and then he was like, "Oh yeah, you're never gonna figure out the sky." Like that's the first thing I had to ask him about. Is like, so what does the Bible say? Because I knew he was really into scriptures and the Torah, and yeah, I was like, so what does it say about the sky? Are we ever gonna know what's going? He's like, well, pretty much it says you're not gonna figure out what the sky is.
It says yeah, that's what it said. And after looking at it for a while, I think that might be the case. But it's still
Yeah.
fun to think about.
Oh yeah, it's great to think about and ponder upon, but don't let it drive you crazy because
Yeah.
I don't think we're supposed to figure this out. It's one of those, hey, I'm the creator and I can do things that you're just not going to understand. Not from your little point of view down there. Not until I show you a different point of view. From down there, you're going to be like, what is going on? So yeah, just calm down. The sky is, man. It's
Sky is beautiful. Everybody needs to
beautiful.
spend more
Yeah,
time
it's
looking
gorgeous.
at it,
Just
looking at
look
the
at
circling
it. Yeah.
stars.
Mm-hmm.
But trying
That
to
is,
figure out
yeah.
what it is and this and that, it's fun to ponder, but don't get your hopes up is all I'm saying. Like of really thinking that you got it nailed down or this and that, because I've seen people who do, and then you're like, well, did you throw this in there? Oh no, I didn't even know about that. And then it
We had a
all
name
falls
for these
apart.
people in the early days. Anybody remember what the early name was for these people? They got Tiger Danned.
Yeah, Tiger Dan. Yeah.
For anybody that remembers Tiger Dan and that, yeah, they got Tiger Danned. Favorite Pink Floyd song, Learning to Fly. Can't keep my eyes off the circling skies. Tongue-tied and twisted, just an earthbound misfit eye. But just
Yeah, awesome
words for
line.
that.
All right, Karen. So what you got coming up this week?
Anti-religious scripture study on Saturday and coffee talk on Monday.
Scripture study usually starts around 11:11. It may
Yeah.
be a little bit after that though, but it's usually right around that time. And then coffee talk, she shoots for about 9:30ish, somewhere around there. A couple weeks ago, you jumped on even early. I saw you had put it out like an hour before the show started, and then it was like 9:15 and you had it started running. I was like, oh, she's ready. She's raring to go.
Yeah, sometimes if it's, if I'm up early, it'll happen. I'm
I
up early all the
appreciate it, Karen,
time.
you sending the notice when you go on in case I miss it, because I never want to miss it. My phone does not notify me, and even though I set notifications, so it means a lot that you do that, by the way.
Well, you're welcome.
And Kyle, what you got going on this week, man?
Well, as soon as I'm done with the Flat Earth report, then I'm probably going to go back to doing the books. I've been really enjoying just reading over textbooks and commenting on them and just asking people, what are your thoughts about the Coriolis effect and the whole spin of the Earth? I've been doing a huge series on just the claim that the globe spins. And yeah, it's been really fun to just really tear these textbooks apart on the matter, talking about the doldrums and how does the doldrums end up working out with the globe model, which shows all this like tons of wind going all along the equator, and yet where's the doldrums? Come on, what's going on here? It's like the globe model is it just contradicts itself left and right. It's crazy.
Yeah, they got an answer for everything, but you start putting them all together and they all don't fit anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Cammy.
And Cammy, while I'm going over this, I have a favor to ask you. I should have thought of it before, but we have a Flat Earth meetup coming up in the Carolinas. And do you think we can find a video to play for that meetup coming up? I know Mark's got it on his
Oh,
channel, or
yeah. I also put it on Flat Earth Festivals. You're talking about the one at Bolton's?
exactly.
Yeah,
I'd love it if we
Bolton's.
could like play that ad for it, and we're working on getting it for the book, but I'd love it if we could get that up. I'll probably be on Iron Rome tomorrow night. If we have a show, we have a snow day tomorrow here in Carolina. We are supposed to get 1 to 3 inches of snow, but it hasn't snowed here since 2022. It's still being a
Wow.
Colorado girl cracks me up. Seeing a forecast of 1 to 3 inches and seeing how every school is closed and how the
Yep.
government, everything is completely shut down. But it does
Yep.
make sense living down here. You're for everybody in Colorado calling us wussies and babies, I can tell you that our roads are at least like 10 inches or so wider, the highways. And again, the reflectors and that are in the road here. You cannot run plows or anything over it. It's hilly, it's icy, and it's a whole different infrastructure.
It doesn't snow enough here for them to have that
To have all
sort
the
of
equipment or anything, yeah.
infrastructure. Like you said, it hasn't snowed here for a few years. It doesn't snow here every year.
Right, and a couple of years ago, that was like an inch. Again, these are not
Yeah.
big totals. So, but it's fun. It'll be exciting. It'll be fun to see like snow on the grass. I guess I'm making the best out of it, even though I don't miss the snow at all. But again, snow
It'll
day,
just be a
so
few inches, and then
right.
it'll go away pretty fast, I'm sure. So it'll be fine.
Yep.
So yeah, here's the meetup, Bolton's Curbside Cookery, 108 South Main Street, Mount Holly, North Carolina, Sunday, January 26th at 1 p.m. It's usually
Yes.
closed on Sunday, but they are opening it for the Flat Earth meetup.
Yeah, it's open just special for Flat Earth meetup. So it'll be
Very
fun.
cool.
And in case people don't know what this place is, because you're not running that one ad on it, they do. Mark had the commercial up for years on it. They did that commercial with Mark Sargent on it. They have the really good burgers, the flattened burgers with the eggs and the different things on it. Flat Earth, wonderful, wonderful people. So I'm excited about this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. And yeah, I will be over at Iron Realm Media tomorrow morning for Ironworks, 5 a.m. Eastern, 2 a.m. Pacific. We don't get many West Coasters out there. A lot of people across the pond, but we do that Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning, and then like Cammy said, Friday nights on Iron Realm Media, we do have No Sphere. But yeah, that's gonna do it for the show, everybody. Thank you all.
Support our GLOBEBUSTERS, all of them, our guys especially that are getting hammered, all of our love and support out to them. Really, really appreciate it.
I gotta say, judge them by their fruits. Okay, you want to call them a shill? You can just watch them, keep watching them, see if they continue to produce Flat Earth content. Good content that is like informative. Okay, and judge them by their fruits.
Yeah, I mean, how
by
many
their, by their
times?
works you shall know them, right?
How many times does something happen and people lose it because of something Jaron said?
There's been so many
So
good
many
things that
times.
he said. He's
Yeah.
And Jaron, besides Jaron, who I have the utmost respect to, Jaron, we joined we came into Flat Earth. Bob did, and I did via Jaron. Just Bob calling in with Jaron to help handle calls and that, and people really liked hearing Bob. But we had donated the original laser to the Jaron show because we really liked, again, experiments and question on it. But his entire channel has been about use your brain, make up your own mind, be kind to one another, don't lie to one another, open your mind. There's truth inside, but it's been he's checking out his personal truth. So he's gone through religion, and because he's unique, he goes through religion differently than I would, than Kyle would, than Karen would. But he says, this is Jaron, this is my point of view. Flat Earth, again, that's his point of view, but he's never ever said, I know everything. It's just, he makes it very clear he's going through his eyes. You're not a shill when you're going through your eyes. He's saying, don't believe me, do your own research. That's his tagline. So where his research, again, I've been looking at the skies for a long time in the ground and the possibilities of it, and it's working with the magnetics and the different things I've worked with. It's not a very far, again, with the properties there, they're all there. All the properties exist Faraday. Everything exists out there for our skies to work. Can I place it in there perfectly? No, but every single property that we need is up there already. It's really a small leap for me. Again, I was expecting, I had a 50-50 on the Antarctic sun going around. I was literally 50-50. I didn't know I wanted the information. Jaron, really, to him, it was a game changer. He could not wrap his mind around the visuals or the magnetics not working. He does not get into the heavy magnetics and tech like we do. The unseen, the different, effects of that are actual there, physical properties that come with, again, magnetic fields and electronic fields or electric fields, and that's not really his specialty. Bob really was much more than Jaron, but Jaron is being truthful to himself, and wherever he lands, I have total respect that he's being truthful to himself. We all need to be truthful to ourselves more than, again, I don't want to lie to make somebody else feel better if I'm lying to myself, and I wouldn't expect that from Jaron, nor would I want it from Jaron. So I respect Jaron wherever he lands on his journey for, again, keeping it totally honest with himself. Much respect, much regards.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to do it, folks. Oh, yeah, and GLOBEBUSTERS on Sunday. So hope to see you there.
Definitely.
But that's it. Remember, we're good to each other. Don't lie to each other. Open your mind because there's peace inside. Peace inside. Truth inside. Peace out, everyone.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace.